Edgar Berlanga got knocked out before he even got to this fight. And it is on the gym why this happened. And I'm going to explain to you why. Number one, any profession has a book tied to it. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're an airplane pilot, it all is tied to education. When you walk into the boxing gym, your objective is to learn boxing from that gym. The coach is the person who steps in as the teacher, the educator. He's the person that's a constant in your life. One of the things that people don't understand about the boxing gym is that it is the actual temple for all combat athletes. Nonetheless, Berlanga was a victim of basic fundamental boxing flaws. And when he got into that ring, I'm going to explain to you what happens when a boxer gets into the ring when he's going through a training camp. So what I'm going to explain to you is the progression that a fighter develops a skill and a strategy for his opposition. Next, how he creates that strategy. After that, he has to focus on building muscle memory for that. And then after he builds the muscle memory, then he has to hardwire himself. That's not what most people think about. So I'm going to give it to you where most people will never understand how boxing actually works. So I'm going to explain to you why Edgar Berlanga got knocked out before he even got to the fight. First, the first thing that happens when a fighter gets into a training camp is he has opponent chosen when you're a professional boxer. The minute that opponent is chosen, from there, you start working on the actual muscle memory to give to you for you to actually execute the skills that it's gonna take. Now I'm going to break this down like more of a professor because I am. I've written over 30 books for any of you who have been there. I've worked in camps with Emmanuel Stewart. I've worked at camps with Coach Adams, Coach Bradley, Coach Soul, George Benton. I'm in the upline and the downline of Archie Moore. So yeah, you're lucky today because we're about to get into some stuff that you would have never heard anywhere on the internet. And the reason why this is so prolific to me is because I got to work hand in hand with some of the greatest people. And what I learned during this tenure was that the first victory that you get is having the actual time period to not be in training camp losing weight, but to have the right ability or the rite of passage to have the proper time to build a muscle memory. All right. So this is textbook boxing. This is, hold on one second. I can't read something, but let me break this down. The strategic flaw was when you're fighting someone typically in that weight class, and Berlanga was usually the bigger guy. But in this scenario, he had the opportunity to showcase skill sets that he would have been able to deal with a guy that's bigger than him. 6'3" versus 6'1". See, that was a strategic flaw. One of the things that you get to see when you fight against someone that's bigger than you, if they got power as well, one of the key things that you got to always remember to do, and I'm going to give you this, and you can use this for the rest of your life. I can guarantee you that. Whenever you're fighting someone that's bigger than you, the first thing that you are set in stone to do, or the first thing that you have to keep in mind that you have to do is make sure that they do not get to plant their feet, especially if they're not just only taller, but they're rangier. And when we talk about rangier, we're talking about someone with a great shoulder girth. Like I have the wingspan of a person that's 6'7", right? It's weird. Like that's one of the attributes that goes unnoticed, because when a person appears to be taller than another individual, they automatically feel as if they got the arm reach. That's not the case all the time. So you got a guy that's taller and then rangier. Now I'm going to take you back to one of the first scenarios that I've got to witness a great fighter who I got to work with, Julius, going up against his first opposition that was elite. Now he got to fight Andre Durrell in the Olympic trials, so it wasn't his very first bout with that. Andre, which I talked to 2 days ago, was actually a big guy. Andre was 6'2", and you know, if you know Andre Durrell, then you know Anthony Durrell. Those are some big brothers. I mean, these aren't the typical, middleweights. They are big. 6'2", better half of 6'3", because I got pictures and been with him, so I know how big he is. When you see this kind of thing happening, right? When you got these kind of fighters, 6'3" versus 6'1", not only taller but rangier. So here's what makes it so cool. You can go back, and I'm gonna explain to you what fight you can go watch right now on YouTube, and I'm gonna tell you in a second. But when this gives you the opportunity to show a fighter that's bigger than you, because you can make them feel slew foot. You keep them turning. You go consistently to your right. You never let them plant their feet. And when they try to plant their feet, the only thing you got to do is take a half step to the right. You don't have to make a lot of big movements. Now, you might want to take, at the first part of the fight, you want to take bigger steps, because you got to really find their timing as well, because you've never been in the ring with a guy who has a longer reach or broader shoulders. That girdle matters. When you give up size, when you're typically the bigger guy, you don't go in there fighting the guy like you're the bigger guy. Strategic flaw number one. The second strategic flaw is that you did exactly what Tank did when he fought Lamont Roach. You fought him directly in his chest in the second half of the fight. Clearly, you won the first half of the fight, but you eluded the game plan. That's why you need experience around your corner like Floyd Mayweather, because he understands that in those championship rounds, you got to do what you do best if you have not broken the guy down. And you do that thing until they're broken down. Hence is why I'm going to tell you about a fight that I want you to go check out today on YouTube. But I'm not going to tell you now. Well, give me a second. That was the second strategic flaw. Standing toe-to-toe and not going to your right and keeping them off balance. The third strategic flaw is how you decided to fight him physically. So that's your mentality. I'm going to go in here and prove to this guy that I can hit him harder. And when you can hit a guy harder, that means you win the fight. Ask Zab Judah when he fought Floyd. You hit Floyd harder, Zab, but that does not mean you win the fight. Now, you get caught by Zab Judah clean, good night, sweet prince, especially Super Judah. He was a problem. So here's the thing. Keep this in mind. I blame this on the gym, the institute in which he learns from. Like I said, doctors, they have to do a residency, so they have to go to college, all right? After they go to college, aviation. You're not going to get on a plane if a guy does not have license to fly, if he's not been to aviation school. Boom. You're not going to let a lawyer defend you if that lawyer does not understand law, if he has not practiced law and learned it from a school, because there are things you must know. And so when you go to the boxing gym, that's your institute of higher learning. Hence is why most people don't understand why I said at the very beginning. That is where I place blame. When you walk into that institute, your guarantee, even without the coach, is that you're going to learn textbook boxing. And at the end, for those of you who stay, I'm going to give this to you as a gift, and I'll tell you what this is in a second. Textbook boxing is knowing that the guy's bigger than you. That's what the word boxing means. When you have a guy that's bigger than you, then you have to take away what he does best. You have to take away his best asset. His asset was his size. When you take away his size, what happens to that guy is he has to depend on something else. And before he can depend on something else, he's going to experience what we call frustration. And that's where you want him. You want to take his head game away. And that's when you start picking his ass apart. So here's the deal. The next thing that he did, I'm going to break that down to you. But the experience that I went through with this kind of scenario, a fighter came up from Florida. Now I currently live in South Florida. So how weird is that? He came up from South Florida. He was an absolute beast in that ring. He was a national champion a multitude of times. I think he was an Olympian or Olympic alternate and now pro. He came to our gym, flew up with his coach, his team. He was pretty arrogant too. Dreadlocks, blue headgear. I got this video. Matter of fact, I'm going to post the pictures. He got in the ring with one of the best boxers in the world. I said it's the closest thing to Sugar Ray Robinson that there is. But he's just rangier than Sugar Ray. Julius was absolutely so sweet with it. So nice with them skills. When he was in camp, he had gotten to a point where he was about 17-0 at that point in time. So he was in the military, and so he used to run. He was running like 12 miles. And Bernard Hopkins is another guy that does that. Julius, he did it because he was military, so that was nothing for him. He could run, he could do a marathon every day. It was just nothing to him, right? That's kind of strange, though. Guy can run a lot, like it's nothing. He was a car. So guess what? The guy got in the ring. The dreadlock guy walks by me, doesn't say a thing. All right? I told this story before. Straps up, speaks to his coach. They get in the ring. Sparring's going on. Julius gets in the ring with this guy. Okay? They get into the ring. And it was absolutely 4 minutes of absolutely domination. This kid smoked our guy. Like, it wasn't even close. Our guy got out of the ring, eyes bloodshot red. Julius never got hit in the ring before, basically. And I mean, literally, his skill set was so good. And I'm going to refer back to Berlanga. But this scenario highlighted something in his career. He wasn't sparring. All he was doing is running. And he thought because he's so good and 17-0 that there are no more levels. And so he figured boxing out. I can get in the ring and I can beat anybody. And that's what happens when your ego comes into play in boxing. You get what I'm saying? You start to believe your own stuff. And so when he did that, the guy gets out of the ring. My guy gets out of the ring, and my guy says, "Did I hit him once?" And I was like, "Nah, you didn't." This guy was, I'm talking Sugar Ray Robinson nice. But that's what happens when you have to embed that muscle memory. If you don't have muscle memory being embedded, what's going to happen is you're going to feel it the night of the fight. So this is why I get back to this situation with Berlanga. When you go to the boxing gym and you fight against a person, the minute you get the fight, you know exactly who you fighting. You know exactly what you up against. For those of you who don't know, boxing is not difficult. Boxing is textbook. It's just textbook. You just understand what you're up against. And here are the things that you have to do. First, after you get the opponent, then you learn the tactics that you have to apply. So the skills that are going to be required is lateral footwork. That's number one. Two, strategically, you don't want to go toe-to-toe with this guy, especially in early rounds of the fight. You break them down mentally and then physically. First thing, well, physically and then mentally, because getting to their body, pop, 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 breaking them down, they get frustrated, their brain goes away, everything else starts to collapse. That's what you call the meltdown. So now, what I'm going to do now is explain to you, once you get the first layer of muscle memory, there are 3 stages of developing this stuff for you to actually call for it on fight night. When you call for this stuff, these are the 3 components that have to be programmed into you as a fighter. If you ever thought about prize fighting, or if you ever had a prize fighter, currently or whatever, especially when you get to the top 10, and I know because I've been there over 40 times working with champions, and it is very, very tough. So many people underestimate what you have to go through and what you have to keep the fighters focused on. So the number one thing that you have to remember is, first you got to get the skill physically into your body. So that is how we refer to that term. It's called muscle memory. But that's most people's final thing. They think when they got it in their muscles that that's it. But when I explain to you what actually has to be partnered with this thing, it'll make total sense to you why you've seen your favorite fighter have meltdowns. The second component to this is when you are having to craft that mind. See, you have to have a mentality. Your mind has to have this particular button switch. That's why Cus D'Amato was so good with Mike Tyson. Whenever he would talk to him, he would talk through him. He would uplift him. He would totally channel this kind of spirit into his mind, giving Mike Tyson the belief system that he would call upon on fight night. And it was always there when Cus D'Amato was alive. You can't replace that, because that's the person who can switch your mindset. That's the second component to this. And the third component to developing a mindset, a physical body, that third component is what you call cements what this is all about in boxing. And that third component is what goes on internally. And that's why Sugar Ray Leonard referred to this one time as internal fortitude. This is where your spirit separates from your body. And the only person that can connect to that thing is the Most High, that higher power within you. And not everyone is in tune to that thing. And that controls your EQ, your emotional mastery. And when you understand how to bring your soul to a place that it believes what you are, it has 100% bought into the physical, the mentality, the mindset, and now the emotional mastery. And now with all 3 of those connected, that is what you call your nervous system. You get it? You have to hardwire that. That just does not happen because you got the muscle memory and you can respond and react to all of the skills being displayed. And then you bark and smack your gloves together, trying to psych yourself up that you got this. You've seen it time and time again in the sport of boxing. One thing you cannot do is you cannot trick your nervous system. And hence is where you find so many fighters on the night of the fight going into this place and triggering the sympathetic nervous system Some people are able to adapt in the moment like Mayweather. That's why he ran like an animal and was committed like a vixen, because he understood the importance of empowering your nervous system, not just working out all the time, but making it so in you that it's in you, not on you. You can pretend that you got this stuff, but you cannot fool your nervous system. And what happens in the minute that your nervous system is trying to rewire itself, the moment that that nervous system is triggered, it either can immediately adapt and adjust and align itself with what's going on, because if it can't, the mind hates chaos. The brain goes into fight or flight. Hence is why you saw Tank experience that against Lamont Roach. He forgot exactly who he was in the moment. That was not Tank having a brain fart. That was neuroplasticity. The sympathetic nervous system is nothing to play with. People lose their entire existence because they lose control over their nervous system. It's not a game. Hence is why this is something that we educate you guys on. Our boxing conversation is not going to be like anyone else's, because we go deeper. And this is where my study is. And when you don't have that nervous system hot wired into your body, it doesn't matter how many times you mechanically done it, because the minute that that thing gets to the trenches, you're in an entirely different fight, and it's not with your opponent. That's why, you know, when you watch fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard, he was a real dog. That first fight versus Hearns, where the ebbs and flows, detached retina, getting rocked by the 6'1" giant, that's a different kind of guy. That's a guy who will die in the ring. He did not have to even question himself and then get a knockout. That's not like these guys today. You don't know anyone that's that nasty. I thought Jermell Charlo was, until I saw him fight Canelo. You know, no knock on him. New level, new devil. Guys forget that there are levels to this thing. So, consequences of neuroplasticity is you freak out. You forget everything you actually learned. And not that it mattered, because it's not hot wired into your nervous system anyway. So therefore, your body is going to be in what you call constant panic. And that's what you saw in Berlanga when you see him just smacking gloves. He doesn't know how to act. It takes him out of his mental capacity. And he just is doing stuff vicariously without any explanation. That makes no sense, to be on the ground because you got dropped multiple times, smacking your gloves together. What does that mean? It says you're dependent on the physical body, where you're in a battle like that. It's a spiritual warfare. It's not physical anymore. But therein lies what people are not learning in the boxing gym. Boxing gym is textbook when it comes down to strategy. But it's not, it does not come with a manual to hot wire the nervous system. And that's exactly where this thing turned. So he was knocked out before he even got to the boxing ring on fight night last night. That was just the actual protocol that he had to go and just collect that L on his record physically. But that's what I put the responsibility on these boxing gyms, to truly understand how this process actually works, and to really understand that it's much more to boxing than telling a guy to throw more punches, start hitting him with the jab, you know, get back on defense, don't stand right in front of him, keep your back off the ropes. Boxing is deeper than that, unless you're just doing it in your living room, shadow boxing in the mirror. So now we talk about that brute strength thing. You see, the more you are shaken, the lower your IQ drops. And that, my friend, is called EQ. That's your emotional intelligence level. It's how you're measured. It totally is more important than your IQ. Because if you got composure under fire, you can find openings. You can see things like Bernard Hopkins and Floyd Mayweather and guys like Archie the Old Mongoose Moore, who created knockouts out of no knockouts. Rocky Marciano, who would most of the time take a beating before he found that opening, and he could crack you so hard with that overhand or that hook. That was a different kind of animal. And these guys today aren't getting groomed in that trench enough. They're always so careful and safe. While their stock is dropping, they're just glad to not get hit at all. But you can throw a lot of punches and still be defensively responsible. Look at Sugar Ray Leonard and look at his face. He has not a mark on his face and is all his faculties. And he threw punches and bunches. You can throw a lot of punches and still not get hit clean a lot. This is boxing. When you choose to do it, you chose what comes with it. If you didn't want to get hit, you should have stayed in school and became a lawyer. But if you want to get paid millions of dollars on one night, you have to do the thing that the people who are watching are not willing to do. And that's why you get a unique purse full of money, because you're proving that you're different. You can't be the same as the guy in the front row who's scared to throw punches, but you're in the ring scared to throw punches and still want the money that he can't get. You can't have it both ways. Floyd got away with this thing only because he moved up in weight classes. Manny Pacquiao is moved up in weight classes and still throws a whole lot of punches. Sugar Ray Robinson threw a whole lot of punches. You gotta justify what you're really not facing. And what these guys aren't facing is not skill, but it is a lot of, I don't actually do the mechanics to throw punches and bunches for real, because a guy standing in front of me with mitts telling me 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip, roll, come over here, do something cool for the camera so I can get a lot of likes. Bing, bing, bing. So there's that thing happening. So the guy's natural ability to throw punches in combinations, you can't do that using mitts unless you understand mitt mechanics, in which why we created a mitt master series. Get it? You got to understand the fundamentals of throwing punches, understand how to keep your feet up under you. In the second version, you understand how to react and defend and counter like a crazy man. And the third one is how to hit like a pro, because you got to understand how to throw that smoke, because that's where you're going to go. When you get into that dungeon, it's going to get hot. And if you don't have that right ammunition, you're going to get booed a lot. And that's what you're seeing in fighting today. These guys are just literally scared inside the ring. Let's just call it what it is. It ain't I'm being safe. It's I haven't dug down and found that other thing. You can call yourself a dog because the other guy won't do it. But when you're in the room with other dogs, we know why you won't go through with it. All right. So this is where we are today. And our job is, as boxing gym owners, is to let it be known to the fighter that there's a way. But you have to find out what's going on internally. And it's not like when you looked at my man Keyshawn Davis and he was going through ups and downs emotionally. It's not that thing, because Keyshawn will fight. He's a dog in the day and he a dog it at night. I seen him really go after it because he's from the DMV. And when you fighting in that place, you got to be able to bite down on your mouthpiece. I know that. I lived there. I get it. When you have that kind of thing, you got to find out what's going on, because the minute you understand how to wire your nervous system, then that's when you start to forget about that fear and you start to operate like the gladiator. When you go back to Nigel Benn versus Chris Eubanks, 1, not 3, but 1. When you go back, those are killers. When you come to this age of boxing and you see their children, man, you got to be proud of them because they carried on the lineage and they standing on cold ice. Because when they fought, they were both biting down on their mouthpieces from not just the end of the fight, but from the beginning of the fight. You ain't seen a match like that with guys who was committed to dying, because they both had an moment where they had to look up and say, I feel like I'm dying. You deserve to be millionaires. It ain't no belt that can put you in a category that you deserve to be in. There's no belt. You don't need a belt. As a matter of fact, scrap the fucking belts. Because when you bring that, that's the thing you can't pay for. That's the reason why the guy who's watching you on pay-per-view and in the front row, that's the reason why he'll give you everything in his account. Because you can't pay for that thing. That's why these guys today have to find out not the symptom, which is skills, but the root, which is your nervous system. You're going through what we call neuroplasticity. And you got to make it work for you, because it can work for you. Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Ray Robinson, Archie Moore, Tony Zell, or it can work against you. All of them are called Lennox Lewis 2. Go watch it work against you. You can totally spaz out, lose everything in your ear. These are the things that make true fighters. You either understand it or you don't. Boxing isn't about brute strength. Brute strength will get you effed up in boxing. Tough guys get blown away. You're the easiest targets. That's why they say lift weights. So we can make it look easy, because that's what it'll be. But if you don't understand the 1, 2, 3 things that you have to wire for your body to actually produce what's necessary, then the only thing you're going to do is constantly be scary when you're inside of that ring, because you're not dealing with the deeper problem. There's a young man recently, probably within the past week, who said he got to go back to the gym and work on his strength. But strength don't give you courage. You're dealing with something much different, son, than lifting weights and slamming medicine balls and eating porridge. You're dealing with something that's internal, and that's why you have a hard time throwing punches. Go back and look at Sugar Ray Robinson. Go back and look at Jack Dempsey. Go back and look at all of the greats that understood 11 pieces. You're not throwing punches. And it's a reason why you're not throwing punches. And it's the reason why this kid came in to fight last night and got nothing but knocked out, because he lost before he left the gym. Because the gym is not hot wiring these fighters. And that's why you're seeing one-sided fights. That's why you're seeing bad strategy. That's why you hear the coach in the corner yell, throw more punches, throw more punches, throw more punches. Anytime you hear that, run. If the guy can't say, when they throw the jab, bend your knees, step in, rake to the body, step around, get back to the center, hands up high. Keep that head off the line. Pop the double jab quick, and then go down, boom, to the body. Step out. Look left, look right. Do that about 3 times. And watch them when you take the play away. If you ain't talking to them like that whisperer, because see, in the corner, you need a whisperer, someone who can translate to you that makes it make sense to you and connects to your spirit, because your spirit, remember this, it listens to the brain because the brain is in chaos and it hates chaos. So when you can calm the brain, you can enter the brain. When you can't calm the brain, it doesn't matter what you say. These are the things that we try to educate. And so when you talk about boxing, it's 3 layers to it. And it all falls behind the textbook, because this is level 1, the first layer of doing it. If you don't have the system, then it doesn't matter what you do, because you're just vicariously figuring things out. But as you go up in levels, it's going to be a very, very hard climb. You get it? That's why fighters start picking cherries to fight, because they realize there's something that they'll face when they have to face Benavidez, when they have to face Bivals. They start to be exposed because there's something deep inside that they don't want you to know. But they go around talking like they really bad guys. I grew up with people used to walk in the street and die. I literally really lived that life where you hear people say it, I stepped over dead bodies. So when you understand what a tough guy look like, they will do the thing to the person and walk around like they ain't did nothing that night. You don't know what real killers look like. But they are not walking around with boxing gloves on, I can promise you. Because that's a sport. And no matter what you do, you don't play boxing. But boxing don't produce killers. That's a different mindset. And when you going into the ring and you're boxing people, you better realize you need to be ready and you need to be hardwired. And this isn't just talk. I'll call it as I see it. I worked for ESPN for 4 years running. And I had to cut it because I had to do it like I needed to do it. And I need to say it like I needed to say it. So thanks, Johnny Wiles, for the opportunity. And for Iceman John Scully for being on the squad with me over there. And thank you for Manuel Stewart, who's resting in peace, who gave me the opportunity to help them in camp when Klitschko was fighting my man from D.C. But honestly, I want you guys to understand that boxing is nothing to play. And when you don't understand how to do this thing, when I say hard wiring, this is the body, the mind, and the nervous system. And for those of you who don't know, my upline is guys like Archie Moore, guys like George Benton, Kenny Adams, the greatest boxing minds to ever walk the planet. These guys wrote the book. So if you type the word Hardwire, I'll give you this book for nothing. And this basically breaks down what boxing is from its origin. And all of you guys know what I do. So, like I said, Berlanga was knocked out before he went into that fight. And my thing is to point the onus on the gym, because the gym is the institution that that guy learns at. So regardless if their coach works for that gym or not, the institution is responsible. If a doctor takes someone's life and that doctor went to a university, that death resides on the university. and the life insurance policies of the doctor, the insurance policies of the doctor. And they pay a lot. And they pay a lot for a reason, because it's a system. And the institution, which is the boxing gym, is a system. So whoever's at that gym, fighting out of that gym, is responsible. Textbooks for boxing is only a click away. And if you don't do it the right way, these kind of things will keep happening. And no matter who he came in there as that night, Berlanga is not the same guy today. We can't have that in boxing. Deaths are rising. 13 a year, and they're rising. It's not going down. It's not like the cool, big, scary number. The number is getting bigger. Multiple people have died like in the past month and a half. That's crazy. Y'all got to get right and stop playing boxing. This ain't soccer. So, like I said, if you're currently banging in the game of boxing right now and you don't have a university, no matter what you do, you type that word school and don't play around with boxing. That's all I got. Thanks, guys, for taking the time to tune in. I hope you learned something today. I hope you tag your buddies. And I hope more than anything that I get to continue to see you. I'm going to break down Shakur Stevenson fight. So if you want to hear some shit, then you better tell whoever you know that I'm going to break it down to its very last compound. But you got to wait till Wednesday. But when I come, I'm not playing. My name is Eric A. Bradley, coach, that is, and we teach boxing Miami. Peace.